In the bustling city of Johannesburg, South Africa, the sun casts a golden hue over the sprawling metropolis, highlighting the stark contrast between the opulent suburbs and the sprawling townships that surround it. Towering glass skyscrapers reflect the vibrant energy of a city that never sleeps, while just beyond, rows of shacks and overcrowded flats tell a different story, a story of struggle, hope, and survival. Abu found himself in this city, a young and strikingly handsome black man from one of the countries in Africa. In his early 30s, his skin was a rich, deep brown, and his sharp cheekbones complemented his lean, athletic physique, a result of years spent navigating life's hardships. His dark, intelligent eyes held a mystery that drew people in, making them eager to learn his story. Unlike most who arrived in Johannesburg searching for work, Abu's ambitions differed. He wasn't here to break his back for minimum wage. He wanted wealth, comfort, security, and he had a plan to get it. A wealthy South African woman, preferably older, could provide financial stability and legal status. In his mind, this wasn't deception, it was strategy. The world had never handed him anything, so he had learned to take what he needed. Sibongile was everything he had hoped for, and more. She was 53 years old, with flawless skin, a well-maintained figure, and an air of sophistication that made her stand out. Her presence commanded respect. She wasn't just rich, she was a woman of power and influence. Owner of a successful consulting firm, she had spent decades building an empire, and with that success came a life of luxury and loneliness. Abu spotted her at a charity gala, dressed in a fitted emerald green gown that complemented her rich complexion. Expensive gold jewelry adorned her neck and wrists, but it was the way she carried herself, with effortless confidence, that told him she was worth the chase. When their eyes met, Abu smiled, not too eager, not too shy, just enough charm to intrigue her. He approached her smoothly, his deep African accent wrapping around every word like silk. You have a smile that could bring peace to a war-torn nation. Sibongile laughed, a genuine surprised laugh. She had heard every line in the book, but this one from this young, beautiful man felt different, fresh, exciting. That night, she went home with his number saved under Mystery Man. What followed was a whirlwind romance, unlike anything Sibongile had ever experienced. Abu made her feel alive again, like a woman desired, adored, cherished. He didn't just listen to her, he studied her. He asked about her dreams, her childhood, and the struggles she had faced as a black woman in business. He hung onto her every word, his deep, rich voice always responding with warmth and admiration. You are the kind of woman men write poetry about, he would whisper against her ear, sending shivers down her spine. She was addicted to him, the way he held her, the way he looked at her like she was the only woman in the world. One evening, after making love, Abu pulled her into his arms and teared up slightly. I've never felt this safe before, he murmured. Back home, I had nothing, no one, but you saved me, Sibongile. And that was it. That was the moment she knew she would do anything for him. Over the next few weeks, Abu showered Sibongile with attention. He listened intently to her stories, laughed at her jokes, and shared his dreams and aspirations. He spoke of his family back home, of the challenges he had faced, and of his desire to provide a better life for them. Sibongile, who had grown tired of the superficial relationships in her circle, found herself deeply moved by Abu's sincerity. She began to see him as her soulmate, the man who would finally fill the void in her heart. Abu's plan was unfolding perfectly. He knew that to win Sibongile over, he had to be more than just a handsome face. He had to be a confidant, a friend, and a partner. He spent hours researching her interests, her past, and her deepest desires, and he tailored his interactions to appeal to her in every way possible. He took her to romantic dinners and one time to a very luxurious place below the waters, surprised her with thoughtful gifts, and even helped her with her business, using his natural intelligence and quick wit to suggest ideas that seemed to come from the heart. As their relationship deepened, Sibongil began to share more of herself with Abu. She spoke of her early struggles, of the long hours she had worked to build her firm, and of her dreams of slowing down and enjoying life. 6 months after they met, he introduced her to people he claimed were his relatives, kind faces that welcomed her into their supposed family. They spoke in an unfamiliar dialect, but they were warm, always praising Abu for his ambition and success. Sibongile never questioned them. After all, they were family, and they seemed so genuine. Abu proposed in the next 3 months. The wedding was a grand affair, attended by all of Sibongile's friends and colleagues. Abu, standing beside her, looked every bit the devoted husband, his eyes filled with a love that was as convincing as it was fake. Sibongile, radiant and happy, felt as though she had found her happily ever after. The fake union commenced on a surprisingly joyful note. In the early months of their relationship, Sibongile and Abu were enveloped in a blissful bubble of love, spending every moment together. Sibongile had never experienced joy quite like this before. One enchanted evening, with her heart brimming with emotion, she looked into Abu's eyes and said, "You are truly God sent, Abu. I never dreamed I would find a husband as wonderful as you." Abu, feeling a surge of satisfaction, smiled knowingly, his heart swelling with the realization that his carefully crafted plan had finally come to fruition. 18 months after they were married, Abu's behavior began to change. He started to distance himself from Sibongile, often staying out late and returning home with vague explanations. Sibongile, trusting and naive, brushed off her concerns, attributing his behavior to the stress of their recent move to her home. She didn't notice the small changes at first: the way he would scrutinize her bank statements, the subtle hints he dropped about the need for a more luxurious lifestyle. Besides that, he was the perfect husband any woman would ever ask for, and Abu played the role perfectly, so Sibongile doubts flew out of the window. "You work too hard, my love," he said one evening as they lay in bed, his fingers tracing lazy circles on her skin. "You've built an empire. When will you allow yourself to enjoy it?" Sibongile sighed, staring at the ceiling. "I don't know, baby. Maybe soon. Soon should be now." He turned to her, his eyes filled with love, concern, devotion. "You have nothing to prove anymore. Let me take care of you." She hesitated, but he was patient, and Sibongile, who had never been to his homeland, was swept off her feet by the idea of being taken care of. They had now lived together for 3 years, building a very comfortable existence. Slowly, she stopped calling friends back. Slowly, she distanced herself from her colleagues. Abu made her feel like she didn't need anyone but him. Then came the big moment. "I have an idea, babe," Abu told her one day, his voice filled with excitement. "A once-in-a-lifetime business opportunity. We could invest together, my love, build something incredible. But I need some money to top up mine." Sibongile's heart swelled. He wanted to build a future with her. "How much do you need?" she asked, already ready to give. "Just 1 million rand, love. I promise it will come back tenfold." Abu had always been a man of smooth words and calculated gestures. He took the money and used it for whatever purpose he had in mind, and amusingly enough, he returned it with interest, just as he had promised. Sibongile was thrilled to have a man who kept his word. What she didn't know was that this was just a game to gain her trust before he dropped the bigger bombshell. 5 months after, during one of their quiet evenings, as they shared a meal in their modest home, Tabu brought up the idea. He told her that retirement would bring freedom, but the future could be even brighter if she chose to access her pension and invest in something far more lucrative. He painted a picture of a flourishing mining business. He promised her that it was a once in a lifetime opportunity, a venture that would change their lives forever. Sibongile, trusting him completely, agreed, sold her business to a friend, and in a few months she arranged for her pension to be paid out. She was full of optimism that they were going to start a new business with more profits than she had. In the months that followed, Sibongile kept to herself, rarely leaving the house, as Abu always had some reason for why it was best to wait just a little longer for things to be in place. We need to be patient, my love. This investment will secure everything for us, he would say, his voice full of assurance. Every time she doubted, he would calm her fears with tales of his childhood home, of the prosperity his family had enjoyed, and the success his relatives had achieved. When the pension finally arrived, she felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. However, Abu's persuasive demeanor helped calm her fears. He explained that to ensure the business's security, he needed to take the money and manage all the arrangements. He assured her that she would be a signatory on all the documentation he would bring back with him upon his return. After all, this was her country, and she would be in charge of everything once the business was established. Who better to oversee the deal? Trusting him completely, she handed over the full amount, believing their future was about to be secured. For the next few weeks, life seemed normal. Abu went out frequently, claiming he was working tirelessly to organize everything. He brought home fake agreements, and she signed them as the person with the main authority over the business. Sibongile felt a sense of pride, believing that now that she was in charge, everything would be fine. However, the worst was yet to come. She even began to plan their future together, dreaming of a beautiful house, travel, and finally achieving peace of mind. But as the days passed, something began to feel off. Abu had told her he was going to spend some time at the mine, ensuring everything was in order. So they agreed, and they kept in contact by phone. After a week, his calls were less frequent, and his promises of a prosperous future faded into silence. His relatives disappeared, and when Sibongile tried to reach out, no one knew where they had gone. Desperation began to creep into her heart, but it wasn't until she decided to visit the supposed mining site that the full scale of the deception hit her. The land was barren, untouched by the hopes Abu had sold her. With trembling hands, she called him. No answer. She contacted the so-called family members. Nothing. It wasn't long before she realized the horrifying truth. Abu had vanished, taking everything with him. The money, her trust, and her dreams were all gone in the blink of an eye. The man she thought she knew, the life she had imagined, had been nothing more than a carefully constructed lie. Sibongile was left standing in the emptiness of the land, a fool to the cold reality of betrayal. Sibongile collapsed in shock, her breath coming in short gasps. She called immigration, only to be told that Abu had boarded a flight out of South Africa 4 days ago. It was all a lie. It was all a lie. Sibongile broke down. She had given him her heart, her trust, her money, her entire life. Days later, an old friend called her in a panic. Sibongile, are you sitting down? What is it? She whispered. I found him. Her hands shook. Where? The friend sent a photo. It was Abu, elsewhere abroad, laughing at a fancy party beside a beautiful young woman. Sibongile couldn't breathe. She staggered backward, her world spinning. She had been nothing more than a target. That evening, as she stood before the mirror in the dimly lit bathroom, the woman gazed into her own eyes, but all she could see was a shattered version of herself staring back. The hollowness in her cheeks and the sorrow etched into her brow were stark reminders of her struggles. Suddenly, a sharp pain sliced through her chest, like ice piercing her heart. She gasped, her breath catching in her throat, fear bubbling up inside her. Her vision blurred at the edges, twisting the reflection until it became a murky haze, and for a moment the world around her spun wildly. Feeling desperate for stability, she held on to the cold porcelain sink, her knuckles turning white as she tried to stay grounded. But suddenly, everything around her went black, leaving her in a heavy silence. By the time the paramedics arrived, their flashing red and blue lights lighting up the room, she lay unresponsive. Her body felt as cold as the items in the nearby fridge, a clear contrast to the warmth of life that had just slipped away. And so, dear listeners, our Sibongjil was no more. Thank you for listening to this heartbreaking story of love and deception. If you found value, please subscribe to the channel and let me know. What red flags did you recognize in this relationship? Sibongile gave her heart, her trust, and her fortune, only to be left broken and betrayed. Love can blind us, but the truth always comes out. Share this story to warn others, because sometimes love is the most dangerous game of all.